Solar Ash originally released on the PS4 and 5, it was a title I picked up for those systems on day one. Now why did I do that? Because it comes from Heart Machine, the acclaimed developer renowned for the amazing Hyperlight Drifter. To my surprise, nearly 2 years after that original release, we now have a Nintendo Switch version. But the pressing question here is, how good is this port? Well, I've spent quite a few hours now testing it hands-on, so let's get into it. Before we do dive into this, it's important to clarify that this is a performance review. While I've played through the entire game on PlayStation, my experience on the Switch is going to be up to the third boss. However, I will still give you an idea of what to expect from the experience, and if you do enjoy this video, subscribe, it helps us out a huge amount. Solar Ash boasts potentially one of the most compelling storylines I've encountered in recent gaming. It is a narrative that is likely to elicit a range of emotions. On one hand, some players will undoubtedly find it immensely captivating and, hang on to every single word. On the other hand then, some may take issue with its often obscure and minimalistic delivery. It's a tale where you embark on the journey alongside the protagonist, but you are often left to draw your own conclusions. One area where Solar Ash will at least ease you into its narrative though is in offering up a basic setup. So here, you take on the role of Ray, a Voidrunner, and your mission is to save your home planet from destruction by a black hole. To accomplish this, you need to activate a certain technology. Naturally, this is easier said than done, given the obstacles that lay ahead. So Solar Ash is a game that's going to reward you proportionately to the effort you're putting in. You have the option here to delve into the depths of this world, getting to know more about your peers and the environment, yet some players may choose to play straight through without deviating. What I appreciate here is it spurred a significant amount of online discussion boards I have frequently got involved with. Notably as well, it also offers up 2 endings for you to uncover. Finally, one question relating to the narrative that I do want to address is this a sequel to Hyperlight Drifter? That was a question I had in the lead up to the launch, and so here's the deal basically. It is set in the same universe, but there is no connection in that story. The gameplay of Solar Ash, like the story, might create divided opinions. It's going to show its hand within the first 30 minutes, following which you'll be basically mastering these mechanics over the 6-hour runtime. You can't expect this game to really evolve beyond that. How would I describe the gameplay, however? An extremely smooth 3D platformer with intermittent combat elements coupled with a traversal mechanic that might bring to mind Jet Set Radio. Now that is an unusual reference, I know, but it introduces a glide function where you can boost and grind on rails found throughout the world. The real pleasure of Solar Ash lies in its movement mechanics. They are fast, they are responsive. The combat's taking a backseat to that exploration, and that is absolutely a good thing because these enemies often seem more like distractions than legitimate challenges, and dispatching of them requires a simple single input to attack. They do have some nice variety in the attacks occasionally, which will ask you to adapt in slightly different ways, but it's definitely not a core focus. Then you might be wondering at this point, what is your ultimate goal? And it's fairly simple. Your mission is to activate the weapon we mentioned in story that could be the salvation of your homeworld. To achieve this goal, you are required to eradicate anomalies that exist within several interconnected biomes. These anomalies, they disrupt our connection with the weapon, and they appear as black sludge-like elements. Your task is to approach and destroy specific points on these anomalies, and it is crucial to know that while these elements don't directly attack you, they do possess the ability to charge up and incinerate you. So it's a race against the clock. There's a timer shown at the bottom of the screen demanding you hit all of your targets before time runs out. This goal is more challenging than it might initially appear. However, I will add as well, this sludge isn't all bad. Some areas don't harm you and can even provide a way of moving around by climbing on them. However, it will nearly always slow you down and you can kiss your jump and double jump goodbye. Even getting to the location of these targets is a platforming challenge in itself, and it will demand you investigate the world around you for that path. So when you do finally defeat enough of these in each biome, normally like 3 or 4, handily marked actually with a sonar device that you carry on screen, a boss will reveal itself. Now these are known as remnants. It is here that I can't help but draw comparisons to the masterpiece that is Shadow of the Colossus, a game that was clearly a major influence. These towering beasts demand that you scale them and kind of repeat this process of hitting markers before you do meet your own destruction. In these sections, you'll frequently use a time-slowing ability as well as a grapple. This next statement might confuse a few of you, but bear with me here. This combat, these towering beasts, they rarely feel like a battle. Instead, It's more like a puzzle. How can you reach each marker? What skills do you need to leverage? What path must you take? Demonstrating a near perfect platforming sequence then in these moments is going to be critical, because even a simple connection with the black sludge here can kill you instantly. You need to be aiming for the bone structure and jumping from each to each. These moments can be absolutely frustrating, I will not deny it, as you try again, but the size of these enemies is always impressive, and they do a great job of making each one visually unique. Outside of this then, there are a few other elements to the gameplay. You can change up your suit by finding chests left by other Voidrunners, you will meet occasional characters, and you can upgrade your health and armor, which is displayed in the upper left of the screen. Rounding it out then, there are collectibles to uncover, such as notes, armor regen, and red orbs that cover the landscape. These orbs, they can be traded in for healing properties. Look, from a gameplay perspective, it is not perfect. I admit that. On my playthrough, on the PlayStation that is, I did feel the repetition in the gameplay, and I personally wanted more from the combat. It is, however, incredibly unique. I think the big question for many will be the same question I had, and that is, does it live up to Hyperlight Drifter? And, well, the answer is absolutely not. But it is another creative feather in this studio's cap that I can recommend. Alright, so let's dive into the performance of Solar Ash on the Switch, and this includes not only the frame rate today, but also the visuals and the audio. Now, transitioning any game experience onto the Switch naturally tends to involve some compromises, and that certainly holds true here. Initially, the unique visuals of the game might seem minimalistic and basic, yet they consist of dynamic landscapes and diverse biomes that are no doubt more demanding than you may expect on the hardware. I say that because it might be tempting to assume that this should run smoothly, but witnessing it in motion quickly reveals its demanding nature in specific instances. I have to mention as well, I even encountered issues with the PS5 build back when it originally launched. If you are going to play the Switch version of Solar Ash, it's important to have the right expectations, so you will notice a considerable resolution drop. This unfortunately takes away from the crisp, stylish graphics. There is a high degree of pixelation, and some of the detail has been dialed back. Additionally, the shadows are notably weaker, which is perhaps the biggest hit in my opinion, as this helped to differentiate elements of the world in the original. I find it particularly helpful navigating the blue-like flooring that almost reflects water, because previously this floor is moving, so you could identify where the curves and the different, waves were. It just became a little bit more pronounced and easier to spot. On the Switch, unfortunately, this clarity, it is lost. It is not all bad, however. Ray, our protagonist, has all animations intact. Even if her cloak appears to react less, the bosses are still impressive to scale, and the creativity shines through all of these issues. The biomes, they do still impress as you walk into each one of them. I was also surprised at how little I noticed popping. Some of these structures can be a considerable distance away, but it always felt like they were on the horizon. Frame rate is by far the most significant area for the Switch build, as it is not locked. Now, throughout my journey up until the third boss encounter, it became evident that the frame rate could maintain stability for periods, and when it does, gameplay feels fantastic. However, it also stumbles quite frequently, whether that was due to brief, almost momentary pauses, or more complex locations pushing the system's hardware to its limits. So for me, this is just frustrating, as it detracts from the fluid nature of the platforming, as well as the feeling of responsiveness. Now, I do want to add, however, here, it is far from rendering the game unplayable. I managed to get through combat sequences and scale to the tallest locations without any problems. It wasn't quite as enjoyable as when I played it on PlayStation, but it's definitely still in working order. Audio then is the final area I want to address in performance, which may seem like a weird inclusion, but it appears the soundtrack has a bug currently. I want to start by saying this soundtrack is something special, composed by a couple of different artists, but most notably for me, Disasterpiece, who worked on Hyperlight Drifter. It is just stunning and worth listening to even if you don't buy the game. It just captures this alien world perfectly, and the same can be said for all of the different sound effects and the fully voice-acted scripts. Unfortunately, however, there is a bug occasionally when the game goes completely silent. This was consistently during boss reveal cutscenes, where the game should have these epic musical pieces, but instead right now there is nothing, so just take a look here at this cutscene. The sound here would return once we got into the gameplay, but I hope this will be a quick fix via a patch relatively quickly. So Solar Ash is an incredibly unique game that won't be for everyone, with a gameplay loop that doesn't really evolve and a storyline that will be appreciated by those who enjoy taking their own meaning away from a narrative. For me, this studio continues to impress in relation to experiences not quite like any other out there, and their partnership with publisher Annapurna, it makes complete sense. They are a powerhouse in this arena. Sadly though, the Switch build is the last version I can recommend. The shortcomings simply impact the overall experience. That said, however, if it is your only way to play, I do think it's worth it if you want something that's more unique than most games on the market today. Just, again, go in with the right expectations. And that is Solar Ash Nintendo Switch. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. With that, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews, deals, news and lists daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.